All right, let's talk about the situation in Iraq and Iran's possible hand in all of this violence with Jessie Jane Duff. Jessie is a former Marine gunnery sergeant, and she's now a senior fellow at the London Centre for Policy Research. Jessie, good to have you back on the show with us. Jessie, what is fueling these protests? Is there potentially an Iranian role here?
You know what? You're hitting the nail on the head with me. You know I suspect all bad things come from Iran. The Shiite influence is obviously with Iran's hands in the government of Iraq. We know that they have embedded themselves there. They have a great influence upon the Iraqi government. And unfortunately, this has made a lot of the attempts by the United States to assist Iraq in the past futile. And we all know that we were there to help these people have freedom, and they have been reverted into becoming somewhat, I would say, an Iranian proxy. The Shiite influence is something very powerful, and Iran has wanted to be embedded in Iraq along with Syria and every other area that they can have some type of stronghold throughout the Middle East. So yes, I'm very suspicious. We don't see necessarily clear evidence of that, but we know that water runs deep, that blood runs deep among the Shiite.
And certainly Iran would benefit from ensuing chaos in Iraq that we are seeing, and it's worsening all the time. We have one of Iraq's most influential clerics saying that the government needs to resign. If that were to happen, would that end these protests?
You know, I don't think it would, because what will happen is there could be a shift in play here. We could see the overthrow of the government and have the type of government that could come in place like we saw in Iran. It wasn't that long ago that Iran was somewhat of what we could call a democracy. They had freedom. They had the capability of not having to suffer under Islamic regime rule like they do now. But when we see this type of thing, when a cleric steps in who happens to be Shiite to pacify the protesters, the government, the prime minister has made promises that they're going to work on the employment rates and the corruption, but they've heard these promises before. The protesters have been active in 2018, also in 2016. Right. I think that, I hope that the UN has some influence here, or the United States, that can calm these waters, because we'd hate to see Iraq collapse to this type of Shiite influence that is led by Iran.
And Jessie, in the interim, we had 44 people killed just today. That death toll is rising. Curfews have been imposed. The military is being sent in to other places. Whose problem is this? What should the international community be doing? And specifically, who in the international community? Is this something that the U.S. now needs to get involved in?
Well, the U.S. doesn't need to get involved to the levels that we've been in Iraq, but our State Department, I'm sure, is working very aggressively to talk with the Iraqi government to stabilize their situation, because we know that when these kinds of things happen, and Americans say it's none of our business, we see absolute destruction follow. So hopefully we can have some type of peacekeeping influence that we can assist the Prime Minister to get control back and assure that these youth are given opportunity for jobs, maybe some type of economic influence from Iraq where they can actually perform in the international community and gain economic empowerment. But it seems like they're just so far away from that right now. It's a very stagnant era that they're going through. They're stuck in the mud, so to speak.
And in the meantime, we have civilian protesters being shot as they demonstrate. Jessie, thank you so much. Jessie Jane Duff, thank you.